She is a creative and an ambitious architect. For over 18 years, she's thrived in the public and private sector. She's made a myth that a woman cannot thrive in a male-dominated industry. Bethy Ansabah Ako is my guest on the dish. This evening, we're going to delve into her life as an architect. She's a lead architect at Ebeth Consult. We get up close and personal with Bethy Ansabah Ako. As we get into her life, we get to learn the challenges, the exciting times, what makes her a phenomenal architect. Come with me as we have a conversation on the dish. On the dish today, the conversations get interesting. Join me. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a wonderful evening it is going to be. I'm super excited to be back here. My name is Miriam Mensah. And if you're joining us for the very first time, you made the right choice. I'm telling you, you made the right choice. I'm excited that you're going to show up here to watch women, especially for my girldom. If a woman recommended this show to you, they've done you a great deal of kindness because, listen, we have conversations with progressive women who have had an impact in their society, in their working space, in another woman. Because note that this year's theme for the dish is give to gain. We're tying into the provision made by the International Women's Day, curators who have said that, listen, this year we're going to not only celebrate power or strength of a woman, we're celebrating support. And so many women are doing this incredible thing of pouring into other women, and we've not celebrated them enough. So this year we're doing that. But as part of doing that on the show, we're going to highlight their achievements and all the exciting things they've done. So stay right here with me as we do that. But again, if you're joining us for the very first, I'm going to run you through the room. Let's go through the room. Let's tell you what we do over here. So The Dish is a vibrant and inspiring show that celebrates women, their journeys, and the impact they make in today's world. Every week, we highlight powerful stories, meaningful conversations, and the beauty of womanhood. This season, we explore the theme, like I said earlier, give to gain, because when women support women, incredible things are birthed. Incredible ideas are brought to light. And to stay right here with me as we delve into that. Again, my name is Miriam Mensah, and I want to say big thank you to Telecel and GC Brand. I'm saying that if that house needs to be a peaceful home, if people need to hear that your children are living a healthy life and your skin is showing it, the GC Brand is the brand I recommend. They take care of the daddy, the mommy, the babies, and everybody that matters in that home. And so from your hair to toe, we have something exciting to take care of you. So I want to say big thank you to the GC Brand. Grab you a GC Brand Princess Cream, Princess Body Splash, Princess, roll-on. Just don't go about smelling like an evil spirit. That's all I'm just trying to say. Don't go about smelling like you're a woman. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. You grab your GC Brand and thank me later. Well, this evening, we are going to delve into a big conversation. But before we get into that, I want to run you through this. Tired of dealing with messy hair? We've got your solution. Introducing the new BO16 Styling Gel. It effortlessly holds and styles your hair, leaving no white flakes behind. Choose from our original clear or sleek black gel to suit your style. BO16 Styling Gel, because your hair deserves the best. Express yourself confidently. Available now at your nearest store. The GC Brand, it's all about you. Now, we're joined tonight by Mrs. Bethy Ansabah Ako. Good evening.
Good evening, Mimi.
How are you doing?
I'm well. And
Well,
you?
well?
Yeah.
Okay. You excited to be here?
Very excited.
We're going to look into I'm telling you, all the things that are happening today on this set are a testament that this conversation is going to be powerful.
That's great.
I'm looking forward to it. Looking
Sure.
forward to it. But before we get into all the laid out questions and the structure we're going to follow tonight, let's talk about why you decided that architecture was a thing you wanted to do. Of all the things, you could have been a lawyer. Of all the exciting things that, young girls would like to do. I want to be this, I want to be that. You chose architecture. Tell me about that.
That's a very interesting question.
Isn't it?
Yes. Okay. So I'd say that my interest in architecture was birthed out of confusion.
Oh.
Yeah. Right from infancy, I had wanted to be a medical doctor. That's always a dream of every child.
Yeah.
Getting into SHS, I actually read science, physics, elective maths, biology, chemistry. Of course, I would have definitely landed in a science or the medical field. But some way, somehow, I remember even in SHS, when we used to go for practicals, physics practicals, my physics teacher has this white lab coat. I'll just put it on and then, oh, you're looking cute. Wow, medicine will fit you, and that kind of thing. But something happened along the way, just when I finished school and I was pondering over my life and asking myself a lot of questions. Do I really want to be a medical doctor? Do I have the courage to do that? So I started researching into the processes that makes or a medical doctor goes through, and then I realized that, wow, they work on dead bodies. In case of emergencies, people are brought in with blood oozing all around them, and so that triggered. And then I started asking myself a lot of questions. Am I sure I am really ready for this? So that's when the confusion set in. So I started, thinking about it, trying to even brush it off and still remain focused on pursuing medicine. And then our results came. Yes, I qualified for medicine. I could have also done pharmacy or any related medical profession.
Yeah.
But some way, somehow, the interest just went off and the confusion became very deep. So fortunately for my parents, they didn't force us in terms of choosing our profession.
Yeah.
They gave us the leeway to do so. So there was a program organized by the KNUST lecturers at that time where they guide young students out of SHS to choose professional courses.
Yeah.
So it was during that lecture that one architectural lecturer came, and then he introduced the course. Okay, so architecture is science and art of buildings. So just then I was like, oh, okay, but I'm a science student. And science, yes, I can. Art, I remember doing biology classes. I used to do a lot of sketches. I can close my eyes and then draw, let's say, the digestive system and all that. So I said, okay, if it's about that, then I'm okay. I can do it. So that's how come, the interest in architecture started. And then my mom was like, why don't you give it a try?
Yeah.
Maybe you can. I said, okay, let me see. And then coming from a Christian background too, I decided to invest prayer into it.
Right.
Lord, this is a very difficult decision I need to take by myself, right? From infancy, parents have been taking decisions for you. So guide me. So I took it prayerfully. And all the things I said fell in its place. My admission came. It was so smooth, successful. I had a hall of residence. My parents didn't struggle in anything. And then I was landed into architecture.
Wow.
So for me, that is how I landed into architecture. It's not like probably I had a family member at home who, inspired me, or probably I saw a certain building that is how I landed into architecture. And I must say, I haven't regretted it.
I can see
it's
that.
It's been very interesting.
I can see that.
It's been
I
very
can see
interesting.
that. But architecture is still a very, male-dominated industry. Run me through how you've navigated that journey, knowing very well that it's it's a bit challenging, and maybe it's not for everyone, but it's still a male-dominated industry. Tell me about it.
It is. It's quite challenging. I'm here smiling all through, not because I took it on silver platter. Even with our male colleagues, it's not easy. The training to become an architect, you have to go through rigorous training.
Wow.
And in a male-dominated field, I realized the first day I stepped foot in the class of architecture, in a class of about 80 to 90 students, there were only 10 to 15 ladies. So there and then I told myself that my life as a normal lady ceases from today. Unlike other ladies that would take time, maybe going for lectures, you do your makeups, that girly, kind of lifestyle, you have to put it somewhere. Yes. So there and then I informed myself that this is not a normal lady or women profession. It's a male-dominated profession, and therefore I need to up my game. I need to know what I have to do. And of course, in such a field, you always have to be on top, because already you are being pushed away. It's a male, domain. You are being pushed away. But by God's grace, I was able to sail through. And then in the field of practice, even in all the places that I have practiced, I have always been the only lady in the department. Yes, there are times where the system itself forgets even about you as a lady because they are all males, especially when duty calls for a woman to go on maternity leave. That one, forget about it. You are entirely forgotten. Unless you prompt your bosses that, oh, sir, I am
Also
around.
part of- Oh no.
Yeah,
That's very
I am
sad.
around before, and sometimes going to fail to do inspections and all that. Oh, you are a lady, you are a woman, let the guys do it. And I'm like, what? No, this is my profession. I need to do it, so I have to go. So I should say it's been challenging, it's been interesting, and it's built me up. Yeah.
Wow. What does architecture mean to you beyond the building design to just, putting together a beautiful community? What does architecture mean to you?
Okay. So for me, architecture is the extension of life.
Oh.
Why do I say that? God, our creator, is an architect. Architecture simply means creation of spaces, either interior or exterior. So every architect looks beyond the form, which is the building. The goal is not the building, but the goal for every architect is the life that happens within the building. So in that, we are focused on creating comfortable spaces. Spaces have impact on the lives of people. And therefore, as much as possible, the quality of life that you can give to the users of space is important. Again, connectivity to places beyond buildings. You go to a site, how does this site impact whatever building you are going to put there? The direction of the sun, the direction of the wind, what kind of soil is even here? The people around, what kind of lives are they living? What impact will it have on the building? And then again, beyond buildings, I see architecture as problem solving. Every design an architect does is to solve a problem. If, for instance, I am engaged now to design a studio, I am solving a problem. And then again, architecture, as much as possible, helps us to be able to do things right. So it makes you responsible. Every line you put in place means something. You cannot just draw a line and have no meaning for a line. So, I would say that the goal is not the building, but the lives within the building.
Within the building. I have never heard anyone say it like this before. I have never seen anyone explain their careers. It's not even in architecture alone. Their careers so passionately and also with so much understanding of what it is that you're doing. I think you're an incredible woman.
Thank you.
Now, still in the world of architecture, of course, that's what you do. So we're staying there for a bit. What are some of the challenges you face, whether it's male or what's the general problem before we come to the ones that are designed for women?
So the general problem for me in practicing architecture in Ghana is that I think that a lot of people don't know what architects are about or what architecture is about. We've been reduced to just lines. People, you work for clients, you invite them to take them through the work that you've done, and then they look at it and, oh, so is it just lines? You put your bill down, and he or she goes like, oh, but
Just for drawing
it's just lines. But this one, I can tell the mason to do this. I can, that's one of the basic challenges that we have. And especially when it comes to residential buildings, every client feels he or she is an architect, can create his own space, but they fail to know that architecture goes beyond that. With the previous explanation I've made, you realize that an architect can make or make you. In that, even in this space, if there has not been careful thinking through and knowing how do we enhance sound within this space, how do we balance light, the mood of lights within this space, an architect can unmake or make you. In your bedroom, I can decide to position windows just anywhere for you. And you will never feel comfortable in the space, no matter how, you want to enhance the space. So I would say that one of the basic challenge is that people don't really know much about what architects do. And there are few out there who also work closely with architects like draftsmen, in a way, have taken over what we do, portions of what we do, and think that that is all. A lot of clients meet draftsmen and then they go like, oh, I can do this for you, I can do that for you, thinking that it's just technical drawing. I always tell people that my 15-year-old daughter, I can show her using computer and our softwares to draft. Everybody will be able to draft. But to ensure that there's functionality, creativity, and all the various considerations that you need to make, it goes beyond just that. So I believe Ghana, a lot of people don't know much about what we do. And then also, I think the government also, in a way, played down a bit on what architects do, because it's not just creation of buildings. It is about the physical environment, urban planning. We work hand in hand with physical planners within communities, creation of spaces like markets, places, educational places, and all that. The planners do their zoning and then give us the master plan. And then we pick the various spaces and design to suit the needs of. So I would say that the challenge we have as architects has been that people play down on our work, the value on our work, and that misconception of architects are expensive, in quotes. So let me cut corners and go in and use my mason directly. Or let me use the draftsman, I know he will be able to do that. At the end of the day, I believe you've heard a number of buildings that have collapsed. There are still a lot of them on their way. Some are not collapsing, but people are not comfortable in using those buildings. They are either spending a lot on energy or spending a lot on light, or trying to make the space comfortable in one way or the other. Yeah, so in a summary, I would say that people place less value on the work that we do. But fortunately, the Ghana Institute of Architects has taken this up.
Okay.
And we are, one way or the other, trying to educate. I personally run a program sometimes on Peace FM with Nana Yakunedu. She invites me. She's more interested in the built environment. So she invites me to talk about the need to use professionals in the built environment and all that, the rules and blah, blah, blah. And you could see that questions that come from the listeners, you realize that they don't really have the knowledge. But as we do these advocacies, and with a program like this, it's a good platform. And I must say, you've really done well. Thank you very much to your team. Yes, architecture would be great. People will get to know about it. And then it's not just about their, let's say, public buildings, but as small as a single bedroom house, you need an architect to guide you.
To design and to guide you. And I love the word you use, which is guide, because you don't only design or draw or do all of that work, you also advise.
Sure.
Because from what you're saying now, because I would have, and again, pardon me, but I would have reduced your work to just drawings. But then now we realize that it's not, you don't leave it there. You move further to letting the people understand what you're building for them.
Sure. And then not just that, even in the construction of the building.
Yes.
I mean, the dreamer of the design, he or she has the master plan in his head, has put it on paper. Why would you want to bypass him or her and just deal with the craftsmen on site? For them, they know that, okay, in Mr. Kofi's house, we used 6 blocks. We placed the windows here. We use this size of windows. But it may not be the same as Mr. Ansah's house, because Mr. Ansah's house orientation may be different. And therefore, where you're supposed to place the windows may not be the same as how you did Mr. Kofi's house, you know. So you need to involve your architects beyond the designs. I don't even call it drawings. I call it designs. Beyond the designs on the field, to ensure that whatever you are seeing on paper is exactly what you are getting.
Absolutely. You don't get these kind of conversations anywhere but right here on The Dish. And I am always elated to see women who understand fully what it is that they're about. Last year, we put together a program, and the whole idea for the program was to have people, professionals, communicate effectively what it is that they do. And this morning, she wasn't one of our students, but I'm glad that I'm seeing women who can actually articulate very well what it is that they do. Well, moving forward, what has been one of your toughest experiences as a woman in the field, and how did you handle it? Because I know you handled it great. I'm saying how did you handle it, because you're going to take us through the process. But for you to sit here and be this equally as passionate as you started, then something great happened over there. Run me through it.
Okay, so the greatest challenge, like I told you earlier, has to be you being forgotten within the space, even in the work environment. But it even goes beyond that. Now on the field. On the field too, you meet all craftsmen are men. It's these days that we are having lady painters, a few ladies also going into construction and all that. So one of my biggest challenge had to do with how to balance, how to balance our culture when you go on site. I remember there was a time where I got to a site and I saw all men around, a steel bender giving a steel bender an instruction that no, this and this is what you are supposed to do. And the person lays back a little bit, apart from even age difference. You realize that it was going through the mind of the person, who is this lady? And in quotes, Obaso, I'll translate. Obaso, I mean, why should a woman instruct a man to do whatever I have to do? What kind of thing is this? So I realized that if I'm not careful, I wouldn't be able to thrive well in this space. And therefore, I need to adapt certain skills in order to be able to deal with them. So firstly, what I do, when I get to site, I convey a meeting, and then I explain to everybody that none of us knows better than the other. There's this perception on field too that, these people are book people. We are on the ground. Like you get a 50, 60-year-old mason who has laid blocks for almost 20 or 30 years. And then you come and instructs the person, no, you have to push this way. So I let them know that nobody knows better than the other. It is about sharing of ideas. And actually, construction is teamwork. The fact that maybe an architect or an engineer may be the lead doesn't mean he or she knows better than the other. You need to coordinate well with those on ground, So I open up and you realize that when you do that, people settle in. And then to the extent that even when they have ideas to share with you, they come, madam, I think that this one, the column looks this, let's do it this way. You share ideas. And then you still point them back to the drawings. And I tell them, if you have anything to add, ensure that you see clarity before you do that. So I realized that was working. And from that time onwards, I've had a very smooth journey, smooth time with my male workers on site, and it's been very interesting. Sometimes they are even there not because of work, they call you just to check up on you. Madam, how are you doing? Hope everything is well, that kind of thing. So I should say that you should be firm, but in being firm, be mindful of our cultural differences, and then be able to balance the two so that you can have a smooth work done.
Indeed, you and I'll keep saying this until I end the show. She understands what she's doing. You cannot take that away from Bethy. But yes, we have been having great conversations right here on The Dish. We're going for a quick commercial break. When we come back, the conversation definitely does continue. You get to hear more from Mrs. Ako. We'll be right back after this. Well, you're welcome back to The Dish right here on MX24. My name is Miriam Mensah, and I'm sitting with Mrs. Betty Ako, and she has been spilling the tea about architecture, her role in that industry, what she's been doing so far, how she has even, sustained her career till today. 18 years in the game is not a joke. Now, but let me stay on the conversation of sustainability a little bit. But I want to say a big thank you to Telecel and the GC brand. The GC brand says that they care about you. It's all about you. So they have products that takes care of you and your household. From daddy to mommy to the children at home, they have a product for everyone. So just grab your GC brand product today and thank me later. Now, I said we'll stay on sustainability a bit. How does sustainability play a role in modern architecture and its importance in Ghana?
Sustainability, I should say, is very important in modern architecture. When you say sustainability, to me as an architect, is to create a building that meets today's needs and yet still doesn't destroy tomorrow's resources. So in that, I need to create spaces that are functional today. However, the kind of materials that I use in creating those spaces, the kind of energy I place in the building should not deplete tomorrow's resources. So with modern architecture helps us in terms of managing energy within a building. In that, you don't create a box full of glass and then retain heat in the building. You know, for our tropics here, we would want to expel heat as much as possible. But as a result of, traveling outside to see what others do, maybe you've seen a very beautiful building in Dubai, in Washington, somewhere, they would want to retain heat into the building, and therefore you meet an architect and tells the architects that, okay, you know what, I want this glazed building, I want to have glass all around. Sustainability guides us as architects to know that you, as much as possible, have to manage the energy within the space. So in the choice of materials, I wouldn't even go and choose a glass that would retain heat in the space. There are glasses these days, double glazing, that prevents as much as possible heat into your space. And then you also know how to orient your building well, bringing in maximum ventilation and then adequate lighting. Okay. So that your building will not depend on artificial ventilation within the space. Remember that in as much as you put in artificial ventilation in the space, the machines that are helping you to produce cooling, they are emitting heat. I remember I entered into a public building, an office building, and where they've put the outdoor units is just close to the stairwell. Before you enter the whole stairwell, it's like you're going through oven, and these are the emission of heat. Already our ozone layer is depleting. Why do we want to add more and deplete the resources that we have? So sustainability in modern architecture is very, very important. Again, in management of resources, even current resources within the space. For instance, we have rainwater, and Accra, especially in Ghana, low-lying, we get flooding and all that. You see that people design buildings and the whole place is hard landscape. There's nowhere you can have some of the rainwater being harvested or draining into having soft landscaping around, where I always say that buildings breathe. Building breathing meaning that you need some greenery, around the building. We say that human beings do what? We inhale oxygen and exhale oxygen. The plants need the carbon dioxide. The plants need the carbon dioxide in photosynthesis. So as we exhale, it means that we need to be able to balance, greeneries. So sustainable buildings, or sustainability in modern architecture is incorporating all these that I've talked about. Then again, how to manage waste. The 3 R's of waste: reuse, recycle, and then I've forgotten the other R. But as I explain, it will come.
There's a word for
reuse, recycle, and then it will come.
It will come.
Sure, it will come.
Okay.
So how do you manage waste within the space? These days, the kind of even fixtures, plumbing fixtures you have to put in the space will help you manage water. There are some that you don't need a lot of water to flush it. And in modern architecture, we are exposed to some of these things. So as much as possible, you incorporate these into your building so that it becomes sustainably friendly. And then again, you have water tanks where you'll be able to harvest your water. And then even with recycling of water, there are, beyond septic tanks, we are now going into biofuel tanks and all that, where even the human excreta is recycled, channeled into energy, LPG gas for cooking and all that. And then again, also in terms of power, management of power, we can't always rely on ECG, and therefore incorporating green energy For instance, the use of solar panels. Fortunately for us, we are in the tropics, we get a lot of sunlight. So we need to make good use of the sunlight and channel this into power. In so doing, you realize that buildings that are produced become sustainable. They meet today's needs and yet still are able to help keep the resources that we have. And then lastly, incorporating the use of local building materials. In as much as we want to learn from the foreign countries, yes, we have bricks, we have stone claddings, you know, all these can be used in our buildings to be able to sustain lives within, and yes, still our resources will still be maintained as much as possible.
Now, this one is a little something I want to, in a few words, just explain to me what you think when in terms of planning Accra, because we've talked about this many times, that Accra is not properly planned. Some leaders have even proposed just decentralizing some of the institutions and businesses in Ghana, moving them from Accra, moving some government offices even from Accra, just to decongest, you know, the congestion we have over here in Accra. In planning Accra, if that job was given to you, what would you do?
Okay, so firstly, I would plan with the problems that we have in Accra. Accra, as we all know, flooding, June 3rd problem. Flooding is a major issue in Accra. Traffic is an issue in Accra. So I wouldn't run away from water. I would design with water. In so doing, I would ensure that I design our drains very well. There's this new concept that is called the green-blue corridor or the blue-green corridor. It simply means a drain that is wide enough, a drain that is covered, a drain that has plants or trees planted along its banks, you know, to improve upon the environment, you know. So I would ensure that drains are planned so well such that we can walk on drains. You may be walking on a drain without even knowing you are walking on drains. I wouldn't wait till the flood sets in before we do dredging and all that. Then again, proper planning. Every municipal area or district needs an architect. And that's one thing the Ghana Institute of Architects has been advocating for a very long time now. And just recently we had a program, Meet the Media House outside, Against the Wall. Yes, that's that book, Against the Wall, where we invited stakeholders to let them know why or the need to involve architects in urban planning. Every municipality or district needs an urban designer. Architects are able to plan and design these spaces such that traffic will be reduced. Why would I, all the way from Dawenya, want to come to Accra Mall to purchase something from Accra Mall? When mixed-use buildings are planned and the planning is done so well, traffic is reduced. The distance in commuting from one place to the other is you are able to find things within the same locality. And then companies coming to have their branches, you know, or their networks within the local areas would be easy. And therefore, people don't have to travel all those long distances. Yeah, so I would say that if I have to plan Accra, firstly, planning with the problem, flooding issues, handling traffic issues, and also creating public spaces, relaxation spaces. Just recently over the media, we heard about a proposal of a car park under the East Legon overpass. I mean, such a proposal cannot be there. For me, if you are giving me the opportunity, I would rather create a recreational space under that space such that all the offices around, the sellers around and all that, within certain times of the day, can go and sit under the tree, relax, chat, do one or two things. These things improves our mood.
Yeah.
This whole issue about high blood pressure, Africans are full of high blood pressure, diabetes and all that. People, you know, just to be able to feel excited would want to go and eat sweets. And by so doing, you eat junk food just anyhow. But going to sit under a very well-breezed environment, looking at how the plants and the flowers are growing, just that alone helps you so much. So these are the three things I would want to do if I'm given the opportunity to improve upon the planning in Accra.
You see why you need a woman president in this country? because I'm sure the women who think that Accra should be planned this way as well. And so this one is my own advocacy. Let's get a woman president, guys. We've done well to get a vice president. Let's get a woman president. Anyway, so finally, do you think enough is being done to encourage women in architecture? Because we have heard you. This is my first time listening to you. And from top to finish, I don't even feel like interjecting. Everybody knows how I do this show. I'll ask questions in questions. But I've listened because I realized that you are in charge of what it is that you do. You fully, and I've said this already, you're fully in charge of the conversation. But when women say they want to get into architecture, people worry that they will not thrive in the space because they feel like it's not for women. Do you think enough women are being encouraged to get into the space?
Okay, so I'll say that previously, no. Personally, I was even scared, even taking my own decision, as I told you earlier. A man saw me and was like, huh, you the small girl. And I used to be very cute, very small, you know.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Hey, are you sure you'll be able to do this course and all that? Yeah, but for now, a lot of people are being encouraged. We have women groups like the Ghana Institute of Architects, women, even women in engineering. You know, there are these bodies encouraging young. Personally, I do so. I was invited last year to Central University to meet the women's wing, encourage them about challenges as a woman when offering architecture and then after school and all that. And you could see that the numbers are really improving. You know, so it's just about the person having the passion to be able to, you know, offer the cause. And I always tell them, girl, you can make it. If I have made it, I sit here looking like already cooked, but it's not been easy. I had women encouraging me, women pulling me. At a point in time, I said, I'm not doing it again. Even in the field of practice, about 3 years ago, having done a very big project in Ghana, I told myself, I'm done. I'm not doing it again, you know. But you see, when the passion is there and you have other women pushing you, you'll be able to do it. So I should say, yes, women these days are being encouraged and they can do it. And in fact, the built environment, not just architecture, needs women. Yes. We always say that the men, they do the skeleton, but we have to come and add the flesh to it, making the building beautiful, not just beautiful, but very functional. Women are good in planning and management, management of a project. Maybe you are afraid, probably, oh, okay, I wouldn't be able to do these creative designs and all. Architecture is very broad, very, very broad. You can go into anything. I have colleagues who have specialized in finishes, just finishes. Building, people put up the core and shell, and then they come into putting the windows, the air conditioning, interior spaces, and all that. Yeah. So it's very broad. There's a lot of market in there for women, and I want to encourage a lot of young women to take advantage of this opportunity.
Awesome, awesome, and that's a very profound statement from Betty. She has been running us through the life of a woman practicing architecture in Ghana. If you haven't seen any, well, we've given you one. Okay. All right. So now you have a reason to go after, you know, that dream of architecture. And I know a lot of young women would want to get into the area, but there's a bit of fear. And so that has been eradicated today. You make sure that you go after that ruthlessly because, you know, the men are doing it means that you can also do it. That's all it means. I'm telling you. That's all it means. You're not going there to go and compete. You're going there to complement.
That's right.
Because if they're creating the skeleton, then as Betty said, we add the flesh to it and life goes on. Well, thank you so much, Betty, for coming. Your final words before you go. Any aspect I haven't touched yet that you think is very important to this conversation, please jump into it.
Okay.
It's your time.
So before my final words, I'd say that there's a misconception about architecture in Ghana.
Yeah.
Architects are not expensive.
Oh.
That is the perception people have. And as a matter of fact, are afraid to engage architects. I remember working in the public sector. I have worked within a slum area before. Yes, people engage you to do designs and then they go like, hey, it's too beautiful. Will I be able to put this up? Won't it be expensive? Beauty doesn't mean it's expensive, you know. So I would say that architecture or architects are not expensive. Engage architects. any small thing that you are doing, so far as you are creating a space, either indoor or outdoor, engage an architect, and not just do the design for you. Let he or she see you through the final state where he will hand or she will hand over the keys to you. That's very important. Yes, the misconception about expensive architects being expensive. At the end of the day, realize that when you use the wrong people, you even incur a lot of cost. I have been approached severally to do remodelings of spaces. And at the end of the day, the cost that is involved, it's even far more than if they had engaged architects.
From the beginning.
Yes. Then my final words.
Yes.
I want to encourage all women, anybody who has a passion to be an extension of God's creation, consider architecture. It is very interesting. It helps you to shape lives and then your life as well. Reading architecture has made me a very responsible person, has made me plan my life so well. Because unlike all the other profession where, let's say you go for your normal day lectures, architecture, you go for your lectures and at the same time, you would come and do your assignments, design assignments where you present. In the morning, you have to wake up and go and do all other things. So architecture is interesting. And then in terms of the economic viability of architecture, I would say it's good.
It's good.
Yes. It comes as you grow.
Yes.
Yes. So be encouraged. Anyone who wants to venture into architecture, be encouraged. Ghanaians, engage architects and you will not regret.
You will not regret it. You will not regret it. And note that it's also economically viable. Okay, it's very important. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Betty, for joining us on the dish today. I have enjoyed your conversation thoroughly. I'm telling you the truth. I wish I had a little bit of passion for architecture. I would have gone after it today. But I don't. Because if you ask me in class, I used to have a problem. When you ask me to draw something, I'll just be crying. Because I know there's going to be someone who will do way better than me, and I don't like that. I'm a very competitive person.
Okay.
So I didn't want to go into areas. Some movisha ads, I never even got close to it because I was like, nah, that's not my calling. But I know there's a young girl out there whose dream is to become, an architect. Who wants to get into the build world. That's what you call it. Yeah, and the build environment.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm trying to use your terms. So.
Yeah, good.
Thank you. The build environment. So it's important for us to have such conversations. So they're encouraged. So thank you so much for sharing yourself with us today and being so generous with yourself. I think this is one of the most, this conversation has been really full. I have heard the depth of conversation, that was in this particular one, and I'm really grateful that we did this. Well, before we go, your money deserves the safest home with Telesol Cash. You're protected every step of the way. No risk, no worries, no long stories, just peace of mind. Dial *110# or download the Telesol Play app now for safe, secure transaction. Telesol Cash, the safer choice. Send it, KK. Okay. Now, a big thank you to the GC brand for coming on board this season's dish. I have had a great time using this. The Princess, I'm telling you, the Princess Body Mist and Roll-On is your go-to for my girldom. And Style Life for the men. Just don't, and I'll keep warning you. One of our problems in this world is body odor. It's very problematic. And I do not want you to be one of the problems we have to solve in this world. So just grab you a GC brand product that suits you, because the products are, gentle on the skin. And so no rashes, no harsh, attacks on your skin, and you thank me later. I just want to say thank you to every single one who shows up for the show. We're grateful. We're grateful. This season is getting hotter. I was going to say heater. Hotter and hotter and hotter. So stay with us as we do that. A big thank you to Betty, our guest. Betty Ansabah Ako. She is an architect. She shared herself with us today. Like I said earlier, she's been super generous with herself. She shared with us. She's poured into us. And so we're giving. And again, once a woman gives, we gain. Of course, we build incredible things from just giving to each other. Come back here again as we learn and grow together right here on the platform. My name is Miriam Mensah. Stay with us here on MX24, but the dish will be back another time.